Welcome to episode 26 of Pera's Playbook. Today I'm joined by Tyler from Puck My Life. That's right, I said puck as in hockey puck, not the other word that would throw this into the explicit category. But Tyler's going to talk all about their brand and how they got it started and what they're all about. And there's a lot we can discuss here. So Tyler, thanks for joining me. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. It's almost Thursday. Thursday's it's the best day of the week. The rest of the week's behind you. Friday's in your sights. You can make it to the weekend, and all is good. So I can't complain. Um, we're going to talk about your whole brand, your whole what you guys are made out of, what you're doing, and your plans for the future and all that. But let's give some background to the listeners, kind of what you guys are about and how you got started.
So, going back, like as far as like my hockey background, I'll be perfectly honest with you. I don't think I've ever said this on any of the platforms that we're on, but I've only ice skated twice. So I don't know how I actually like developed a love for hockey. When I was growing up, where we lived, we had a big parking lot near us. So my brother and I would play roller hockey, but where we grew up, it was a farming community, and there was no money for rinks at our high school and everything. So some of the guys that I graduated with had to be part of traveling league. So that was just not in the cards growing up. But through everything that had happened, somehow I got into hockey somehow. I'm not really sure. And then in 2020, my buddy Cody and I, when we started going to a couple of games here and there, we started documenting a little bit of what we were doing as far as going to these different rinks. And we were kind of just starting out with a few that were here in Michigan. And then it really started to kick off when we went to Ottawa, Canada, and wanted to see two Canadian NHL teams play. So we went and saw the Ottawa Senators play the Vancouver Canucks, and it was just after Erik Karlsson came back from, I think, a knee injury. Something in his leg was messed up. He had just come back, and so we went out there, caught that game, and then I think a night or two later, as we were on our way back home, we stopped in Toronto because we always wanted to see the Red Wings on the road, and what better place to watch them on the road than Toronto? So we stopped in Toronto, caught a game there, and then we were doing like one trip a year for a while, and then it kind of just started to snowball into other stuff, and then one thing led to another, and now we've been traveling all over. I've been to 54 different arenas between the US and Canada. 48 I've been to and actually watch games. And so there's 6 that I've been to that I just visited this summer. Jose and I went down to the NHL draft. So I've been to Bridgestone, but I've never been there for a game. And some of the other ones in the OHL, I have been to, like the team store, but I've never actually seen a game. But that's just counting the ones that I've actually stepped foot in. A few of them I've driven by, seen it from the highway or whatever, but 54 of them I've actually set foot in.
And the goal currently is to get to 100, correct?
Yeah, that's what it started out as. As of right now, we're not sure where it's going to end up. That was I
There's no
haven't
stopping
changed that.
point right now. You don't have a cap
As
on
of
it
right now,
anymore.
no. Yeah,
Yeah.
as of right now, like we're still gonna try to get to 100 if we can, but that the goalpost is gonna probably just keep moving back at that point.
Right. So where did the name come from? How long did it take you to think of it? It's a pretty clever name. Did it just pop into your head? Did you guys come up as a group or?
It just literally popped into my head, like when we were starting to figure out an Instagram, because some of the game experiences that we had been to, we didn't actually get a chance to record through Instagram, and we had always talked about it for a while. And then one day I just sat down, I'm like, I'm gonna actually get this started. So on February 2nd, I think, of 2020 is when I actually sat down, set up the account, and I think within like 10 minutes I come up with the name, and it's just like we're just gonna run with it and
Yeah,
see. A
no,
lot of
it's
people were skeptical at first because like, "Oh, you're insinuating something else." Like, well, get your mind out of the gutter, sir. You know,
yeah, right,
it's all
exactly.
about the
No,
puck.
it is. It's just a play on words, and there's not many other. I like it because you're right now. Your life is this is like a big portion of your life and hockey pucks, and so unless you're like you said, you've got a gutter mind and that's what you're going for. It makes total sense.
Yeah.
So out of, all your different experiences, 54 different rinks, which has been your favorite experience and then which has been the worst experience and then kind of why for each?
Ooh, that's actually a really tough one. We've been to countless different leagues. I would probably say the best one for me, I guess when I think more about it, hands down, it's going to the Saddle Dome. I've been a Calgary Flames fan for a while. They're my team. I still cheer for Detroit, being the homeboys down in Detroit, and it's just one of those things where it's like growing up, I wanted to find my own teams to follow. I know you're from Michigan, correct? Right?
Yep. Yep. From the UP.
Okay, so a lot of people. Okay, so you're from the UP. So down here, you're either a Michigan or a Michigan State fan or you're a Lions fan and all that stuff. And it's like I didn't want to just fit into everybody else's mold. I wanted to go out there and experience things for myself and find my own team. And so like for example, like for football, I cheer for the Eagles. I've been an Eagles fan ever since I was like 5 years old, and Calgary fan for at least like the last like 10 years or so. But as far as like the best rink that I've been to, I would have to say the Saddle Dome. I know it's not the most like expensive building I've been in. It's not the nicest building. It's got a lot of character, but to be able to go and set foot into that arena when growing up, I never really thought that that was ever going to be possible with how far it was. I think it's like well over 2,000 miles and not really having any connections out there. I was just so thankful and blessed to be able to be part of a trip where I was actually able to make it out there to go to the Saddle Dome and basically to the motherland of my favorite team.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah. So where did the Calgary come from then? I mean, you said you want to find your own teams, but there's got to be a reason why you chose Calgary.
So a couple of reasons. First off, it was I really like Johnny Gaudreau. I was catching up a little bit on him when he was playing with Boston College, and then after he got drafted, I was like, okay, yeah, Calgary is definitely a good thing. And then also the year I was born, Calgary won the Stanley Cup. I don't know if it was their only Stanley Cup, but it was their most recent Stanley Cup back in the late '80s. So that was part of it too. And then I don't know, I just always been drawn to that team. Sean Monahan is also one of my favorite players of all time. I've really felt bad about his career. Some of those injuries that he's had to play through. I think he really didn't get a lot of the credit that he deserved. And so I was following the team very, very high for a while. So I don't know. It's just one thing that I've like one team that I've just really like gripped on. And then everybody knows that when we go down to Detroit and Calgary's in town, I'm always wearing the Calgary gear. I'm never wearing the Detroit stuff.
Yeah, I'm the same way as you. And people always told me that I was weird because I'm from Michigan and I don't root for Michigan sports teams. But I am a huge Anaheim Ducks fan. Like out of all the sports teams I root for, it's the Ducks and then Notre Dame for football, basketball, hockey. I'm huge. Those are probably my two biggest. And then I also root for the Tennessee Titans for football. I like the Celtics for basketball, and then the Diamondbacks and the White Sox for baseball. So I'm the same way. I'm all over the board. I didn't want to be, pinned down to I'm from Michigan. I have to root for the Tigers, the Pistons, the Red Wings, and the Lions. And it's also tough because other than the Red Wings and the Pistons, obviously back in the day, but there's really been no recent success in the last however many years for Detroit sports teams. It's been pretty
Yeah,
sad to be a
unfortunately.
Detroit sports fan. Not saying that played into my decision. It just makes me happy to like look back and not be a Detroit sports fan. Although Lions fans
Yeah,
have hope this year, so yeah, you never
a
know.
little bit. They have a little bit of hope.
Yeah, but they've also had hope many other years, and it's gone south. So you know,
Exactly.
take what you will with that. So we talked about your favorite experience. There's got to be a bad experience. There has to be one in there. Going to one of these rinks where it just wasn't great.
So the one that comes to mind when you bring that up was there was a trip that we went on. I think it was like a year and a half ago. Cody and I went to Pittsburgh to watch the Kraken in their first ever game where they would play in Pittsburgh. And then we saw that the Red Wings were playing the second night in Pittsburgh. So we're like, oh, let's just stay the night. We get to watch two games. So the first night, the tickets were a little bit cheaper. And so we sat lower bowl. Second night when Detroit was in town, it was a little more full since Detroit was there. So we didn't want to spend like over double to sit in lower bowl. So we sat upper bowl. And it was the first time I had had beer spilt on me. And the Red Wings ended up winning in overtime. And we were surrounded by a bunch of drunkards. And the fans and everything, they were rude to us the whole time, yelling and swearing at us. And of all the games that I've been to, that's been the worst experience. We've talked about it a few times on the show, making fun of them. The first night was great. They have class down in the lower bowl, but you go upstairs and those people with the cheap seats, and they're just spending all their extra money on beer. So
Yeah,
it was pretty bad.
you got stuck up there with the slobs, just people
Yeah.
who don't actually care about hockey, the ones that when they got home they don't remember the game. It's there's always those people at sporting events, concerts. It's like, why'd you pay the money to get in here? You're not going to remember this tomorrow. You have no idea what you just saw. I don't know.
Yeah.
Always baffles me, especially people who spend a lot of money on tickets to stuff, and
Oh, for sure.
then they, I get having a good time, have a few beers maybe, but when you can't remember the event, well, was that $500 worth it, or whatever you paid to get,
Yeah.
seats? It's always amazing.
It's insane what people do. Like we had these people at that game, and it's like they kept getting up at the wrong time. It's like in the middle of play, or it's like somebody's trying to kill a power play, and they're getting up and walk in front of everybody. It's like a lot of these places, like people don't know proper etiquette. I mean, it's not
Yeah.
like some of these other sports where you can easily get up and people are constantly coming and going. But like even some of the arenas we've been to, they don't even have the ushers like hold out the little flag to like stop people to let them in. And then you're trying to watch a game. We've had countless times where we've missed goals and stuff because people are just walking through and they don't even care. They don't understand the game. And I wish that's something that some of the arenas would take a little more seriously, as to like teach people about etiquette. Some places they'll put up, in their little slideshow before the game, like, oh, don't do this, don't yell, don't swear, whatever, throw stuff on the ice. It's just like people just don't get it. And it just bothers us a lot. It's happened countless times throughout all the places we've been to.
Yeah. It's an important thing to note. I mean, some people might think it's stupid, but it's, you're paying that money to go to that event. You want to be able to enjoy it. You want to be able to watch all of it. And the sports teams, the arenas, the management should take it seriously, because people are paying money to come to see that team. So, I mean, you should be able to watch all of it. You shouldn't have to deal with some, jerk standing up and then you missing a goal because that guy stood up to go get another beer or some popcorn that couldn't wait till there was a stoppage in play. I mean, that's the other thing. There's plenty of stoppages in play. They couldn't just wait 10 more minutes, 5 more minutes. You had to get up right away.
Yeah, and there's 40 minutes of intermission in like every single game. Like you couldn't have waited for the intermission, in
Yeah.
between periods. So it's like, I don't know, just sometimes people I don't know, sometimes I just don't like people.
Yeah. Right. So, where are the top 5 places you still want to go? Maybe they're not, on the immediate list, but they're high up on your bucket list of places you still want to go, for the group.
Okay, yeah. So one of the teams that I really wanted to go see in the OHL is the North Bay Battalion. I've seen what they've been doing over the last few years. They've been building a really good program. And one thing that you'll notice if you've watched some of the other videos, that I like going to like the obscure areas. So if we can go somewhere that's kind of off the beaten path, places that people aren't really going, like one other place that we're looking at going to this season, possibly in March, is to go see the Newfoundland Growlers out in Newfoundland, St. John's, Newfoundland. And one of the goalies that we used to watch in Flint is actually on the squad now out in Newfoundland. So we'd really like to go out there and watch him play. He had a phenomenal run in the OHL playoffs a year and a half ago. So it'd be really cool to go out there and support him. As far as like NHL goes, after I've been to the Saddle Dome, everything else was just kind of on the same level. I know a lot of people have high on their list, like going to Madison Square Gardens to go catch a game, go catch the Rangers. I would like to try to knock off the rest of the original 6 off my list. That would be really cool. like going out to Boston. I hear that's quite the building to be in as well. Chicago, we're actually really surprised that we've never been to a game at Chicago when it's only like a 5-hour drive away. There's been a few times where we've tried to set up trips to go see them, but from one thing to another, it's just we've had to cancel our plans, or we had stuff set up like before COVID happened, then COVID happened, and then had to cancel everything. So that's another one that's high up on our list, especially now that Bedard is going to be there, and we want to be able to go see him and see if he's actually going to live up to the hype that everybody seems to have for him.
Yeah, there's a lot, of hype, and people are saying he's I mean, the most generational player since McDavid, and he's going to be better than McDavid, better than Crosby. I mean, there's a lot of high praise, so it'll be interesting to see what kind of an impact he can make. Also, when looking at the roster, it's not loaded with star-studded talent around him to help. I mean, there's some good veterans that he can learn from, and that should help a little. Corey Perry and Taylor Hall, and guys that have played a long time in the league. They know what they're doing, but I don't. He's going to have to do a lot on his own this year, especially if he wants to put up numbers. Which, I mean, in the levels he's played in the World Juniors, and he's proved that he can do it in all the levels he's played in. So, there's no reason to believe he'll fail, but you just gotta kind of wait and see.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to fail at all. I just don't think that he's going to have a breakout season that everybody is talking about. When I was at the NHL draft, I actually like stood right next to him, and I mean, he's an okay sized guy. I know he's like really quick and he's like built and stuff like that, but some of these guys that I've seen in the NHL, I mean, these guys are monsters. And they hit him in the boards or something like that. I don't know what's going to happen, but I I think it's going to be like definitely a challenge for him. I think that he's definitely up for it, but I think it's really going to come down to the pieces around him this season and helping him out, and him being able to make some plays with the guys around him.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, talking about big guys hitting him. I mean, if he got wrecked by Revo, or somebody who's just a machine, Lucic, or some of these guys that are just
Yeah.
ginormous. I don't know. I don't see it. Being a Ducks fan, the Ducks have Zegras, and he's a kind of a smaller, skinny, scrawny, fast type player, and you don't want him to get hit by somebody big. It's just not good, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Do the Blackhawks, do they have any grit? Do they have any meat to defend him, to fight for him?
Not that I've seen. I have to still look over what their roster is going to be after training camp, but no name sticks to the top of my head right now as far as who's going to be able to be there to protect him. But when you have a guy like Lucic, he's still got to be able to catch Bedard too. So Lucic
Yeah,
is getting a little older and he's slowing down a bit, but yeah. So I wish all the best for him. And then another player that we were really excited to basically who I wanted to go down and see get drafted was Adam Fantilli. So
hmm,
we're really excited to see what's going to happen with him. I seen him play on the road and at Michigan a couple of times this past season, and he's just a phenomenal player. And I'm really excited that he's actually in Columbus. I feel bad for you guys that you guys didn't. I know you guys were trying to get him, but I'm glad that he's closer to home so we can go and watch him in Columbus.
yeah. I'm bummed the Ducks didn't pick him. I think Carlson's going to be a really good player, and they're different styles of players. But yeah, I'm bummed because Fantilli he's an amazing player, but he should have a lot of success. I think Columbus is a great place for him. There's a lot of pieces in place there for that team to be successful in the next few years. So it'll be interesting to see what they can do with, having Gaudreau, and having a young guy like Fantilli, Line, and they've got some other pieces that they've drafted in recent years, being a lower tier team that I think they could really take off here in the next few years.
That's what I'm hoping for. I like to see him have a little success.
Yeah. So, you guys plan to come to the UP at all, or have you been to the UP? There's a lot of great barns in the UP, a lot of historic rinks.
I've been in the UP a few times, traveling, like vacation type stuff, but I've never actually been up there during hockey season, because I know the weather up there for you guys can get pretty crazy compared to what it is down here.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to like figure out like when is the best time to go up there. I know Mark, one of the guys on the team, he really wants to go see the Sioux Greyhounds, and then we want to go see. I think there's like the Sioux Eagles and the Sioux Thunderbirds are part of like another like minor league that we wanted to try to like tandem a trip with, and then also Lake Superior State is up there as well. And then coming like where exactly are you located in the UP?
So I grew up in Houghton Hancock. Now I live in Ironwood. So I grew up in the Keweenaw, but now I'm on the far, far west tip. Um, but looking at like Houghton Hancock area, you've got Michigan Tech and the John McGinnis Student Ice Arena, which is it's a great barn. It's a great atmosphere. The Mitch's Misfits is the Tech's like student section, and they always show
Okay.
out, especially at Winter Carnival. The weather is questionable in February, but if you ever get the opportunity to go to the Winter Carnival game, that's when the student section is really the biggest. And then they've got snow statues that all the frats and clubs do around campus. It's really a cool time. But yeah, the building will be sold out, standing room only. Really doesn't matter who they play for
Wow.
Winter Carnival. It's just you have to win Winter Carnival. And then also the D Stadium where Tech used to play. Now the Houghton High School hockey team and the Portage Lake Flyers play there. That's just a really historic barn. It's a super old barn, and there's a lot of history with Houghton. And I'm not sure anymore because I've seen some different things kind of countering it. But for the longest time, Houghton was known as the birthplace of professional hockey. But I
Okay.
saw somewhere that there could have been a different place that started to pay players before a team in Houghton. So that's why I'm just saying for the longest time, Houghton was the birthplace, but somebody might have uncovered information leading to say that another team was paid first. But there's a lot of history there. And then going up to Calumet, the Calumet Coliseum is a historic rink. And they had Kraft Hockeyville there a few years ago, got a big redo, and they had the Blues and the Red Wings play a preseason game.
Yeah, I
So
heard about
there's like
that.
a lot of boxes you could check off there. And then you can go to where Northern plays. I can't remember what it's called. Is it I'm
Is it
drawing a blank
Marquette?
on the name of the rink, but yeah, in Marquette there, and then where the Marquette Redmen play. And yeah, so there's a lot of barns in the UP that are historic that have a lot of cool things to see.
Yeah, we're definitely looking at doing that this season. We're trying to do more stuff to where we're like staying a little bit closer to home. Last year we did quite a bit of traveling, and we've realized through some of the research that we've done this off season that there's a lot of teams nearby that we still need to check off that we can go see like in a day. So we're gonna try to ramp things up a little bit. We're trying to do 30 new arenas this upcoming season. So we'll see if we can do that. I know we've talked with some of the guys from the Calumet Wolverines, and
Mm-hmm.
they want us to come up and do some content and stuff with them. And I think one of our sponsors, Hit Club Hockey, is going to go with us as well. They wanted to shoot some content with them too, so we're going to try to go up there at least once this season if we can. So we're just not exactly sure when that's going to happen. I don't know if the Wolverines have officially released their schedule yet. So we're not 100% sure when that's going to be because we would like to pair it up with like Michigan Tech if we go up there and try to see at least two, maybe three games if we can over the course of a weekend.
Yeah, I'm sure you could definitely do that. You could hit a Tech game on a Friday night, and then you could hit, a um, Wolverines game on a Saturday. Maybe you could wrap in another game on a Saturday night or something. I mean, there's always hockey going on. One of the best ones, I don't know if how it would work out with Tech, but would be the Gibson Cup, which is the third oldest cup in North America or something like that. It's one of the oldest cups in North America, and it's between the Portage Lake Flyers and the Calumet Wolverines. Something about a guy named Doc Gibson. It's a really historic cup. I had some of the when I was doing the Twig Snapper podcast before I transitioned to merging it with this podcast. I had a couple of the Portage Lake Flyers, I mean the Portage Lake Pioneers, excuse me, on the podcast, and they had just won the Gibson Cup and they had it there, and it's like falling apart, and it's just really
Wow.
old from the 1900s. There's actually a
Wow.
section on there where it's like 1943 to 1945. It just says war because they didn't play the seasons due to World War II.
Interesting.
So it's a really cool historic. So if you could pair up the Pioneers versus the Wolverines, and then like a tech game, that would probably be the most exciting time to do it.
And where do they usually host the Gibson Cup? Does it kind of like
I think
flip
it flip
flop from year
flops
to year?
between the Coliseum and then the D.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Yeah, so I wrote that down. We'll definitely be looking into that. Like we like trying to go to some of the specialty things that are happening. I know a couple weeks ago we went down to USA Hockey Arena. They had the summer showcase down there, which is
yeah.
really cool. They had a USA red team and blue team, and they played against a Swedish team and a team from Finland came down, and Will Smith and some of the other
Okay.
prospects
Yeah.
were out there playing. Andrew Oak from Saginaw Spirit was there. Gavin Hayes, Flint Firebirds. So we got to go down and see those guys. That arena does not get the love that it deserves. I mean, there's been a lot of great talent that have come through that building. I mean, they got banners hanging up all over. Dylan Larkin played there, and a bunch of other guys. And we've gone there for regular games because they're part of the USHL during like the regular season, but then they'll go and travel overseas and stuff. But we went there for a USHL matchup where they played the Green Bay Gamblers, and there was maybe like 200 people there at the game, and like
Yeah.
most of the guys on Team USA are now drafted. I'm like, this is the future of the NHL sitting out here on the ice, and there's 200 people here. Like, are
Right, and
you
the
kidding
guys
me?
in
Like,
the USHL are going to end up playing college hockey most likely.
yeah, that's where Fantilli came from. He came from the
Yeah.
Chicago Steel of the USHL. Him and his brother Luca. So
Yeah.
it's just mind-boggling to us when we go down there that it's just not a lot of people know a lot about it. So we're trying to do as much awareness as we can because when we went there, it was $10 for the day to go to both games.
Yeah.
Like, and you're
Wow.
watching top
That's
prospects from Sweden and Finland play as well. Like, come
that's
on. I mean,
crazy.
it's the best value ticket
Oh
that we've ever
yeah.
had.
Yeah, totally. That is really good. I just want to correct myself quick. I'm pretty sure multiple times I said the Portage Lake Flyers. That's like the midget team. The Pioneers are the ones that
Okay.
play. The Portage Lake Pioneers are the ones that play the Wolverines. Just in case I misspoke there. But yeah, I hope you guys make it to the UP eventually. There's a lot of hockey history here, obviously. Have you guys gone to or thought about going to the state championship games, any of those for high school hockey in Michigan when they play in whatever that's March or
Actually, to be perfectly honest, that's never crossed our radar. And so it definitely, now that you're bringing it up, that would definitely be something that would be good for us because like we're always trying to find stuff toward the end of the season because sometimes like when seasons start to end and everything, there's less and less teams to see. So anything else that can help fill the schedule. And I know we've been asked before if we go to hockey games for high school, and we have not yet. I know there's a few teams that use the same building that the Firebirds play in and everything. I think Davison has a team, and a few others in the area use that building. So that's definitely something that we would like to get into at some point. Right now, we just have so many other leagues that we're trying to cover, but especially if it's like a tournament like that, yeah, we definitely would look into doing something like that, especially if it's in March, because March last year was a slower month for us going to new game experiences.
yeah, I'm pretty sure the state championship games are in March. One other, if you guys were interested in a tournament where you could hit a lot of games, would be the Trenton Showcase. Um,
Okay.
that's one of the biggest showcases for premier high school hockey, especially in the state of Michigan. But they have actually all the UP teams like Marquette, I think's been going now, and Hancock, Houghton, and Calumet usually all go down there. And then you have Heartland, Brighton, Howell, all these big schools. There'll also be some prep schools that'll come up from, I think, Ohio or Illinois, Catholic prep schools, that type of stuff that come to this showcase. There might have been a team that, they don't play like high school hockey, they play prep hockey that was there. And I think um, one of the Michigan high school teams actually beat them, I think, this past year, which was
Wow.
kind of a statement win. But yeah, if you guys are looking for like a tournament where you can check off a bunch of things, I think that might be in February. Don't quote me on that, but it's,
Okay.
I think, two rinks games going on all day for 2 or 3 days straight. A lot of hockey. So something to just kind of throw out there if you're looking for something, down in Michigan.
Is that in the UP where that
No,
takes
that's down
place?
at they do that down in Trenton.
Oh, Trenton. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yep. Awesome. Yeah,
So
I put that in my notes, so we'll definitely look into that for this season.
yeah. So what's the future vision, the outlook for the page, the brand, all of that stuff, kind of just looking into the future. I we mentioned earlier how maybe there's not a cap anymore, kind of just see where it goes. But do you have a long-term plan? Do you want to keep doing this for as long as possible?
To be perfectly honest, if I could find some way to make this my main source of income, I would. But I know that that is going to be probably a ways down the road. So what we're trying to do is we're just trying to build it up to where eventually we can be crowdfunded through Patreon, that we just started going in a few other avenues, to where when we go to these experiences, we can have it taken care for, like have it paid for through crowdfunding and through our merch and stuff, to where we don't have to pay for going to these games out of our personal wallets. So, I mean, if we get to that point, I would just be ecstatic to be able to have that happen. And so, we're hoping to do as much as we can this season. We have our one sponsor, Hit Club Hockey, is actually getting ready to drop our first merch line here within the next couple weeks. And then we just launched Patreon. We have a few more things that we're going to add to there, a few more tiers that we're going to put together. We've kind of talked about this briefly on the page, but I've put together the ultimate hockey map, and so we're going to go ahead and release that as one of the tiers. I'll have to share it with you later, and you have to let me know what you think.
Yeah.
So there's a few things coming down the pipeline, but we're just taking it a day at a time, a game at a time, and we're just trying to build it up as much as we can. I mean, a year ago when we started the show on YouTube and really started to ramp this up a little bit, we didn't know what we would be at today. Like that, we have sponsors, we have a few other people that want to work with us. So we had no idea what was going to happen. I just thought it was me and my buddy Cody posting a few photos on Instagram to share the pucks that we're collecting along the way. I'm not like some of these other guys where they collect pucks from every single team and every single like all-star game and Stanley Cup. I like the pucks that you're seeing on my wall behind me. I went to those stadiums and arenas and got those pucks. So it's just something that we're going to just try to build up as best we can. And if it turns into something more than what we want, great. But if it stays about where it's at, we're fine with that as well.
Yeah. And then there's always the potential, if you get a lot bigger, to go overseas. Obviously, there's countless rinks across Europe. There's rinks in Israel because there's a hockey league. There's rinks down in Australia for the hockey leagues down there. I mean, all over the world, there'd be really cool opportunities to go see some of these other leagues and, experience some of those cultures. So if you ever got that big, would you consider traveling, to different places around the globe?
It's actually really funny that you brought this up because, no joke, this morning Jose and I, we booked our plane tickets to Stockholm, Sweden to go to the Global Series to watch the Detroit Red Wings play the Ottawa Senators. So it's just ironic that you brought that up because we haven't really talked a whole lot about it on our Instagram yet. So it's pretty much dropping here first for the most part. So yeah, so there's four of the five of us are going out. Cody and Caleb are also joining us. Cody's getting his ticket on his own because he actually lives out in Arizona now. He moved out there recently. And so he's flying. He's not sure if he's flying out of Phoenix or if he's going to fly out of Vegas or whatever. But yeah, this morning we booked our plane tickets. We're going to be leaving November 15th and coming back on the 20th. And Cody and I are working on an itinerary that would have us in Stockholm, Sweden for the Global Series game, and then Oslo, Norway to go check out the Norway like championship league or something like that. He was telling me about the other day, and then also taking the train down to Copenhagen, Denmark, to catch a team too. So we're with the way that their public transit is set up, it's really cheap to take the train and everything. So we're looking at a bunch of different options. There was one team that we wanted to see, Frölunda. They play over in Gothenburg. I don't know if I'm pronouncing these correct, but anyway, I'm just taking a stab at it. But when Cody was actually looking at the schedule, they were actually, because it was in Swedish, we read it wrong, and they were actually on the road because I think Frölunda is actually the top team in the Swedish Hockey League. So we're really excited to go see them on their home ice. But unfortunately, they're going to be like 6 hours north of where we're going to be in Stockholm. So that ended up having to get rerouted. And so in like a couple of days after that, he talked to a guy at his work that was from Norway and was telling him more about the hockey scene that they have in Norway. So he's really been pushing for that for us as a group to go out there and check that out. So as long as the schedules will work out, we already have our tickets for the Global Series, or at least doing that. And then anything else that we can find along the way will just be an added bonus.
Yeah, that's really cool. Did you guys have, a plan to go over to Europe and to check some of those off your list and really just expand kind of where you've been and the types of different hockey? It just adds to the variety that you guys go to. You're not just focusing on one league. You're going to really kind of anything and willing to go to anything, which is really cool.
Yeah, we've said it countless times on the YouTube channel that everything that we do is for the love of hockey. We're not stat guys. We don't, I mean, to be perfectly honest, I probably couldn't even name like five players on each team. Like because we follow so much other stuff, like as far as teams wise, like because we're going like this weekend, we're going out to Hamilton to go see a team that's in the GOJHL, which is the Greater Ontario Hockey League, and they're the Hamilton Kilty Bees. Have you ever heard of the Hamilton Kilty Bees?
Can't
If
say
if
that
you
I
look
have.
them if you look them up, it's quite the logo. It's like a humanoid half man, half bee guy that's wearing a kilt and one of those hats. Like he looks like he's actually going. It should be a logo for a golf team, to be honest. But he's got some skates on and he's wielding a stick. So we're going out there this weekend. We've made some connections with their social media people, and we're actually be shooting some content with them. And they're giving us a tour afterwards, and we're gonna do stuff with the mascot, I guess. And there's a block party, and so we're gonna go and hang out in Hamilton, Ontario this weekend. That game's at 5 o'clock, and then the next morning we're getting up and driving to Elmira to go see the Sugar Kings to kick off their season. And we've been trying to get a hold of the Chatham Maroons, and they haven't been able to get back with us because we honestly we like going to places where we can get pucks. I mean, that's the whole thing, puck my life. So we're not sure if they're going to have any available yet. So if they do, we're going to go down to Chatham, and we'll actually see two games in one day. So Elmira at 2 o'clock, then we got about a 2.5 hour drive down to Chatham to see the Maroons. So
Wow,
that game
busy
will be at
weekend.
7 o'clock. Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're no stranger to it. This past season, we did a trip where the five of us finally all were able to get together, and we flew out from Detroit to Las Vegas. And that night, we went and watched the Vegas Golden Knights play I think it was the Hurricanes that night. Then the next day, we went out to the practice facility for the Golden Knights. Got to go out there. They had open skate, so we were out there skating around. It was only my second time skating. Jose's first time of the group. The other guys have skated more than us. They're skating circles around us, and me and Jose are just trying not to fall down and crack our heads open. And that night we went over to Henderson and watched the Silver Knights play the Abbotsford Canucks. And then the next day we got up and took a flight to Austin, Texas. And then that night we saw the Texas Stars play the Milwaukee Admirals. And I don't know if you remember back, yeah, it was in March when that goalie fight happened. It was like all over like Sportsnet and some of the other like big names were talking about it. So yeah, we were there for that night, caught that footage. There was like 7 ejections during that game, multiple fights. Like it was like, wow, we're actually at a hockey game, guys. Like some of these
Yeah,
games we've been to, it's like they're all soft. And it's like finally some real hockey for once.
yeah, yeah. You guys got to
So
go
yeah,
to
we did
some.
all that in like 3 or 4 days.
You got to go to some FPHL games, and then you'll get some fighting and some kind of hard hitting, and it's one of the few remaining leagues that actually you guys actually rack up the penalty minutes. But the game has changed. That's for sure. When I was doing the Twig Snapper podcast, I had a variety of guests on that have played back in the 70s, 80s, and they just kind of getting their opinion on the way the game has changed. Even guys that played in the NHL in the early 2000s kind of were just talking about how different it is in the last 20 years, and it's crazy. One of the guys, his name was Mike Zook. He played at Michigan Tech, and then he played for the St. Louis Blues, and I think he played for the Hartford Whalers. And when he came into the league, guys didn't wear helmets. It was at that point where they weren't wearing helmets still
Yeah.
until they added the rule where if you were already in the league, you didn't have to wear a helmet, but anyone new coming in had to wear one. It's just crazy to think that guys ran or skated around out there, no helmets, with pucks flying and taking hits, and it just baffles my mind. And now we're at the point where fighting's going away, which is just
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, I know that the Q had like a lot more issues in some of the other leagues. I mean, those guys out, that's some hard nosed hockey out there. I mean, we went and saw the Blainesville Armada play when we were in Montreal last year. And that was the first ever Q game that we've been to, and it's a little bit different than the OHL, which is in our backyard. But I hope that they find some way to remedy the situation and that it's not going to be gone forever. I think they're maybe just doing this to buy some time until they figure out a better solution. Because I know like a lot of these teams, like they're upset that some of the guys have been getting hurt and they're out, and the targeting and all that stuff, which I think a lot of that's dirty. If it's just natural stuff that's happening during the game, that's one thing. But I just I don't know if it's going to spill over into other leagues or not. But we're just going to sit back and wait and see what happens.
Yeah, I don't think it'll ever fully leave like just the game of hockey in general, but I definitely don't expect it to ever go back to the way it was. I think those times are long past, and we shouldn't expect those. But you never know with where things will go.
Yeah.
So, we talked about your favorite team being Calgary, and you mentioned some players that you like, but who's your all-time favorite player from the history of hockey?
Oh man, that that's a tough one. I like growing up in Michigan, I really like Sergei Fedorov and the time of the Russian Five. I mean, I wasn't very old when that was happening, and it sucks because it's like I don't remember too much of it, but I remember watching hockey with my dad on TV and back in the 90s when I don't know why I remember this, but they had the All-Star game and they were trying out that new technology where they would like highlight the puck as like this purple like orb going around the rink. And so I thought that was interesting. And I know like they were saying like it costs a lot to edit this and blah blah blah. And so it's like, yeah, I don't know. Just like in the 90s, like things were quite a bit different than they are today. But
Yeah,
I would have to say probably
yeah,
like Sergei Fedorov is probably like one of my tops of all time, especially since I got to watch a lot of his career growing up. A lot of other players and teams, like when I was young, like that, I didn't really know any other teams besides the Red Wings. And then we went to a few Detroit Vipers games as a kid, but I didn't remember like any of the players or anything. I know Gordie Howe played for him for like one shift, so he played like through 5 decades or something like that. But yeah, I'd probably say to answer your question, it's probably Sergei Fedorov.
Okay. Yeah, that's I always find it interesting who people enjoyed. A lot of people obviously, like some of the big names. Um, but it's always interesting to get people's takes on who their favorites are. So, I think we kind of touched on most of, what you guys have been up to, what you're doing in the future. And, it's kind of interesting always to see what everyone's doing on social media with influencers and that's such a big thing. And everyone, people have a different kind of take on that and what kind of content they're sharing. And you guys are definitely, have a unique um take on what you're what you're going at. So thanks for coming on the podcast and kind of sharing your journey so far. Hopefully we got a few more people interested in what you guys are up to. But, I wish you guys the best in the future with your traveling, and hopefully someday you guys can make it kind of a full-time gig where like there's so many social media influencers out there where that's all they do. So hopefully you guys can kind of make that into a reality here too with your page.
Yeah, because we're trying to do more than what a lot of these other people are doing. I mean, we're not trying to bash anybody, but there's a lot of people out there. All they're doing is covering the NHL, and it's all the same stuff regurgitated over and over. And so we're trying to go places that people don't even know about, never heard of. And we're just trying to expand out and just give our spin on what we're doing. Like I said earlier, it's all for the love of hockey. When you watch our if you want to call it a podcast, a show, whatever we have on YouTube, we try to discuss the 5 different things that we go to games that people would be interested in knowing about, like from the parking to how much are tickets, atmosphere, concessions, merchandise. And so we thought, when we were looking at it, it's like, well, we'd like to share that with other people, because a lot of times when we go to some of these games, we don't know exactly what to do. When we were in Montreal last year, we actually got turned around when we were trying to find parking, ended up in a tunnel, and then was like 30 some odd minutes late later than we wanted to be. And then we ended up parking right where we ended up turning the first time. If we would have turned to the right instead of the left, we would have parked and got in on time. But instead, we made the wrong turn. I mean, all the signs in Montreal are in French. So we're trying to like decipher where to go. And then we went down this one street and ended up in a tunnel. And then there was rush hour because of the game. And so we're trying to go and figure out a lot of these things before people go and they end up having a bad time, because we want everybody to have a good time when they go out to the rink and catch a few teams. So that's what we're trying to do. And this season, like I said, we're trying to go to 30 new arenas between the US and Canada and overseas. So we're going to see how that's going to unfold. Last year we hit 25. And so we had no idea what it was going to be like. If you watched our first video that we dropped last year in June, and I was talking about our initial goal of 15 arenas, you can sense it in my voice that I had no idea that we were going to be able to even get to 15. The previous season we did 7. So we were like, well, we're going to try to up it a little bit. And so one thing led to another. And at the end of the season, we had hit 25, and we were just blown away at what we were able to do. And we actually really put our minds to it and just kind of went after it.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So, what you mentioned there about the you want people to have a good experience. It's kind of like there's so many influencers, people on social media that give like travel tips if you're going to Disney or you're going to different kind of places. Well, you guys are basically doing that with hockey rinks. If you go to this rink, here's some tips, here's some stuff you should look for, here's some awesome stuff that this team's got going on that's unique to this team, so you guys can show that, and hopefully somebody will watch your videos and they'll say, oh hey, I never thought about going to this place, but after seeing this it looks really cool, I want to go there. And maybe you guys will be the reason that somebody goes to a rink and has a good time.
Yeah, and we've been having people send us stuff on social media that they've taken our advice and it actually worked. And it's really cool to say that, people have looked at that and they say, "Hey, I didn't even realize this team was there until you said something." Or we get people that actually, like, we had the set Sarnia Sting actually go on and watch our video and comment on it and thank us for coming out and doing that, because there's nothing like that out there. A lot of these lower level teams that we go to, there's hardly any content on them. And, a lot of these teams are representation of their community. And so we want to get out there and share hockey to the masses and expose some of these teams that don't get a lot of recognition. And a lot of them are really ecstatic that we tell them that we're coming out here to do this. We have a few teams that have already offered us tickets and everything to go out there and just do stuff on them, because nobody's doing anything on them. And so we're just out there to be basically ambassadors for the sport of hockey and get as much recognition as we can to these teams that we go and see. And we actually have more fun going to the lower level leagues than we do like going to a new NHL arena. Like, it's a totally different experience because it's more personal. And the teams realize that, and it just makes everything so different. Even though you're playing in a rickety old barn that might have a jumbotron that has half the LED screens on it or busted or whatever, they're doing the best they can with the money that they have, and they just love hockey so much that they play through all the adversity of maybe the Zamboni's not really working that great, or it's out there on a flat tire or something and they just don't have the money to fix it yet. But they love it so much that they'll fight through whatever just to have their game going on. And so we just love doing that, and we're trying to do more of that this season to go see the lower level leagues.
Yeah, I mean, when you're at an NHL game, obviously it's a great experience and they're, awesome barns and the atmospheres are great and all this stuff. But you're just one of millions of people who have been there. If you think about how many people go to those NHL rinks, you think about how many people have been to some of these lower level rinks, they're like you mentioned that one team. And I like to think I've got a pretty good knowledge of hockey teams, and hockey leagues, and I had never heard of the Kilting Bees. So there's definitely
Yeah.
teams like that who, if you think about it, well, how many people have actually come to a game here and sat here and had this experience? And you're going to be a lot, fewer number than people who have had experience at an NHL game.
Yeah, yeah, because like I said earlier, everybody's talking about the NHL, but a lot of people aren't talking about even like some like the more prestigious leagues like the OHL and everything. Like, people aren't really even talking about the Memorial Cup. I mean, it's a big deal for Saginaw to be hosting that. It's the first time since like the late '90s, I think it was, that a US based team has hosted the Memorial Cup. So that's a really big deal. It's nice to see that the Dow Event Center is actually getting some much needed renovations. They're getting ready for that. So that'll be a big thing for the exposure of hockey, even in our immediate area. But yeah, we just wanted to try to get away from a lot of these other influencers and people talking about just the NHL. Because initially, when we started, a couple of the guys wanted to just do the NHL and maybe a little bit of the AHL. They're like, well, let's just go around and hit up all the NHL teams and then kind of call it good. But we found that over the course of time that we got more enjoyment out of going to these lower level teams than we ever could at an NHL game. Like, don't get me wrong, going to see the Golden Knights and some of these other teams was phenomenal, but it's just on a totally different level. Like I said, it's more personal when you go to these lower level teams, and we're really looking forward to that. I mean, I'm looking at my list right now for this season, and besides possibly going to see the Blackhawks, the 30 teams that we're looking at seeing, not one of them is really an NHL team. Like, we're trying to do more college, we're trying to do more smaller leagues in Ontario and even here in Michigan with the MIHL. You know much about that, the Michigan Independence Hockey League?
Yeah, because
So,
I had Keegan McGraw on, and he played for the Waterford
oh
Sharks
yeah,
this
Keegan, yeah.
past year. So
Yeah, seen him play a few times this past season. Yeah, he's a real cool guy, and he's also with our sponsor to Hit Club, and yeah, he's a cool guy. We haven't actually like met him in person. I know the commissioner of the league, Miles, and he actually invited me out to one of the games because he saw that we were making content on the league, and he told me, he's like, nobody's making content on us. And he was so appreciative that we were doing that. He wanted to meet me. I went down to Waterford for the championship when Waterford was playing the Muskegon Voyagers, and he wanted to talk to me for a while. He actually gave me one of their jerseys and in appreciation for what we were doing. And that was just mind blowing to me. So now, like, I have his number in my phone. They want to do some more stuff with us. I've now have the contact information for the owner of the Kalkaska Battlers. They want us to come up and do some stuff with us. They're offering us full access, giving us tickets, comping our room for the night. Like, I never thought any of this stuff was going to happen. Like, we just thought we were a couple of guys sharing our pucks, and that was it. But now we're getting contacted from these teams that want us to come out and see them and do content. Because, like I said, there's just nobody doing stuff on them. Half the people out there, or more than half the people that follow us, don't even know about the MIHL. I mean, they should now because we've been doing it, but a lot of people don't care about that. But some of those guys are ex NHLers. Some of them were guys that were going to go into the NHL, but they had injuries that held them back, or they played college. I mean, some of these guys can really play some hockey, and they really get after it too. So we're just really excited for this upcoming season and everything that is in store. We have no clue exactly how it's going to lay out. You know, a year from now, if we're back on the show with you and discussing how it went, I'm sure we're definitely going to have some stories to tell your listeners.
Yeah. Well, I think we should definitely do that. Have you guys come back and kind of do a year in review as we've kind of done a prep for the year, kind of a build up for a year. I think that'd be a good direction to go, kind of next end of summer, fall, kind of look back and see, or sooner than that. I know there's not a lot of
Yeah.
action in the summer, but there's different things you can, like, you guys went to a few places in the summer. So, there somewhere in the world there's hockey year round. A lot of people live and breathe hockey, and it's hockey nonstop. So, and then you obviously got roller hockey is a growing sport, and ball hockey at the
Yeah.
international and lower levels. And there's so many different types of hockey. I know it's a little bit different, but there's field hockey. There's all kinds of
Yep.
forms of hockey that are going on year round. So it's really there's content for days. There's really endless content options.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Well, Tyler, thanks for coming on the podcast and sharing your brand. And it was interesting to learn about it. I remember when you guys had followed me, and I kind of looked and I thought, this is an interesting idea, interesting concept, but I really didn't know much more than the little bit I had seen on your Instagram page. So thanks for coming on and sharing everything. Good luck with this year, and we'll definitely do another podcast year in review, looking back on what you guys accomplished.
Yeah. Thank you very much for having me. This has been a lot of fun, and anytime you want us back on, you just let us know. You can get in direct contact with me right through Instagram. I run the Instagram. The other guys don't run it. So anytime you're on Instagram and you're talking to somebody, you're talking to me. So
Okay.
yeah, we definitely be glad to be on, and thank you for this opportunity to be on here with you and in front of all your listeners. I really appreciate it. It means a lot.
Yeah, no, it was a great time. I'm glad we were able to do it.